When I checked my baby monitor at 2 a.m., there was a man sitting in the rocking chair next to my son's crib. It wasn't a shadow or a trick of the light, I could see him clearly. He was sitting there, hunched forward, his face half hidden under a hoodie. My blood turned to ice. My son was sound asleep, completely unaware of the stranger inches away from him. I froze, staring at the screen, hoping I was imagining it. But then he moved. He leaned down, resting his elbows on his knees, and I could see the faint rise and fall of his shoulders. He was breathing. He was real. I didn't know what to do. I was home alone, my husband was out of town on business. I wanted to storm in there, grab my son, and run, but something about the man's calmness terrified me. He wasn't in a rush. He wasn't stealing anything. He was just watching. I called 911, whispering as quietly as I could. The operator asked if I could lock myself in a room, but I couldn't leave my son. The nursery was at the end of the hall, and the only way to get there was to pass by the staircase. What if he saw me? What if he wasn't alone? I decided to stay put and wait for the police. I kept watching the monitor, trying to keep my breathing steady. Then, the man did something that made my heart stop. He turned to face the camera. His face was pale and expressionless, but his eyes were fixed on the lens, like he knew I was watching. And then he smiled. I nearly dropped the monitor. His smile was slow and deliberate, like he was enjoying my fear. He raised a finger to his lips, signaling me to be quiet. My hands were shaking so badly I almost couldn't hold the phone. The sound of sirens in the distance broke the silence. On the monitor, I saw the man stand up. He walked over to the crib, leaned down, and whispered something into my son's ear. I couldn't hear it, but I could see his lips moving. Then, he turned and walked out of the frame. When the police arrived, the house was empty. No sign of forced entry, no sign of the man. My son was still sleeping peacefully, completely unharmed. The officers told me it was probably a break-in gone wrong, that I'd scared him off when I turned on the baby monitor. But when I went to check the nursery, I found something that made my stomach drop. The rocking chair was still swaying, ever so slightly, as if someone had just been sitting there. And on the floor, next to the crib, was a single Polaroid photo. It was of me, asleep in my bed, taken from inside the house.